especially for a small brand that just has one shop when you're competing with huge brands out there like Club Pilates and Equinox. Like you're dealing with huge brands that have such huge amounts of money. Creating community is imperative to your survival because those are the people that are choosing to spend their local dollars on you when they can go to any other place in their area.
That was Taylor Milburn, owner of Fringe Pilates, and this is Epicenter NYC. We connect our communities to news, information, and each other. I'm your host, Amber Castillo. Originally a kindergarten teacher from Houston, Tay Milburn moved to New York City in 2019 searching for a new direction in life. But just as she was settling in, the unexpected happened. The pandemic hit, and she discovered she had a tumor requiring multiple surgeries. Facing challenges with mobility and recovery, Tay turned to Pilates as a means to heal both physically and emotionally. But her foray into the Pilates world wasn't smooth sailing. Often the only Black woman in her classes, she encountered a pivotal moment when a studio owner asked her to stop using the hashtag #BlackGirlPilates on social media. Instead of letting this discourage her, she was motivated to create a space where everyone feels seen, supported, and celebrated. Fringe Pilates was born out of a desire to build a community that not only embraces diversity, but also uplifts it. With classes taught by women of color and a focus on small, intimate sessions, Tay's studio has become a haven for New Yorkers looking for both physical wellness and a sense of belonging. Today, I sit down with Tay to hear more about her journey, from overcoming personal health challenges and confronting industry biases to fostering a thriving community rooted in empowerment and inclusivity. Before we jump in, a quick message from our team.
Hi, I'm Mariana from the Epicenter NYC team. Did you know that anxiety, sleep problems, and muscle pain could be symptoms of long COVID? Take the steps needed to protect yourself, your family, and your plants. Get vaccinated against COVID-19. We can help you schedule your appointment and even arrange you right there. Email us at hello@epicenter-nyc.com or call or text us at 917-818-2690.
Now back to the show. Here's my conversation with Tay.
My full name is Taylor Milburn. I go by Tay, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the owner of Fringe Pilates.
Where are you based?
Studios in Flatbush, but I live a little higher up in Bushwick.
And could you talk about how you started Fringe Pilates? Could you talk about the moment or the experience that really inspired that?
I had been a kindergarten teacher for a while, very unhappily so. And I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted from my life. So I moved to New York. And while I was here in the first year, the pandemic happened in 2019. So in the early of 2020, pandemic happened. And I just had a lot more time to focus on my health, and something that had been concerning me was something that I thought was a cyst. And it turned out to be a tumor. And I went through a lot of whirlwind surgeries immediately after I found out that that was a tumor to kind of get that taken care of quickly. But it also meant that my body went through a lot in a pretty short amount of time, about 4 surgeries. So after that, I had a hard time with a lot of mobility just because it was a lot on most of my body. And I started doing Pilates on a private basis to take it more seriously than I had before, which previously it was I want to be a baddie. I'm trying to be snatched. I hear people do this thing. But once I got the surgeries and I needed support, I was like, okay, I've heard that this can be really helpful with finding mobility again. And I was just trying different classes around New York. And I was starting to feel really lonely because a lot of times when I went to classes, I would be the only Black person, or at least the only non-white person, to be honest. And then the financial divide, I could tell that I was probably the only person that was maybe coming from ClassPass and didn't pay for, these $300 to $500 packages to come every month. So it was really awkward sometimes. It didn't feel like I was supported in a place. And on one definitive day, I had been going to this place, and it is in more like a little further south in Brooklyn, this Pilates studio that was kind of newer. I decided I was going to spend the money to buy a 10 pack because I'd been going for like a couple of sessions and I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to this place. And when I'd been going previously as a class passer, I would take videos of myself like at the studio and tag Black Girl Pilates, which is like a big community online for Black women who participate in Pilates and teach Pilates. But it also is just like an empowering thing to tag when you are trying to find your community in this space that doesn't really seem for you. And on the day that I came in to use my first pack, my first class in that 10 pack, the owner said, "Oh, Tay, so happy to see you. After you're done with class, can you step aside and talk to me for a second?" And I was like, "Oh, I have anxiety. Like, you have to tell me what is happening right now." And she's like, "Okay, well, I've been noticing how like you've been coming and recording and we love it, but I really feel uncomfortable with the hashtag Black Girl Pilates. It makes it seem as if my studio is not diverse." And I was like, A, your studio isn't diverse. B, my Instagram is my personal Pilates, like my personal life journey. I'm not working for your studio's marketing team. Like, this is what I post on my page. And if anything, it should be good, good for you that there's a Black person who's posting you on their page and making good conversation around your business. And I know now, that I'm more in the world that there is an etiquette around recording, but this wasn't the conversation that she was having with me. The conversation was do not record and put Black women do Pilates or Black girl Pilates or whatever other hashtags I was alluding to that kind of conversation. I pushed back and told her that that wasn't my experience. And she pulls out her phone and she's like scrolling through the company's Instagram page to look for another Black person, which takes her a while. And then she pulls somebody up who I think, if I'm not mistaken, is a Cameroonian woman. I am not Cameroonian. The fact that you're just going to lump my experience with somebody else who's just like a Black person, but like even still, just the whole scenario is super cringy. I cried so much. I left the studio. I was enraged. First, I left. I don't know what I said. I left. I cried in my car for a while. And then I went back in and was like, give me my money back. I just spent 300 and some odd dollars on your business to feel like embarrassed like this. And that after that, I was like, I need to create a space where people don't feel like this. I know that that happens so many times to other people where they just feel like they have to conform. But that just didn't feel right to me.
That's so unfortunate that that happened and that you were treated like that in a space that like was in a way like a part of your healing process, it sounded like, or a part of you like feeling strong and all of these things. I'm curious how you found that online community. Was it like an intentional you looking for other Black women that were doing Pilates or yeah?
I think I was trying to find community online around Black women in Pilates, and I came across this article by Sonia Herbert Price. She is who runs Black Girl Pilates. It's a brand that she's trademarked, but she's also a Black Pilates instructor. And she had written an article basically about being a Black person in the Pilates industry. And I just felt so seen reading her article that I just kind of did a little bit more, click this, click that. And it landed me on the Black Girl Pilates Instagram page, and just a whole, like, that really opened up my opportunity to meet other people who are Black, and mostly other Black women who are practicing Pilates in my area, but also nationally.
Were there certain, especially after that experience, were there certain values or certain also tangible things that really formed the vision for what your space was going to look like, apart from that, of embracing that diversity?
I think after just kind of deciding this is what I wanted to do, so I started playing around with the pop-ups. At that time, I was identifying as vegan, going through cancer. I had done, all this changing in my daily lifestyle to kind of help with that recovery process. So that included trying veganism for a while. So I was really like, I want to bring opportunities for healthy decisions, and like, I hate the word healthy, but like decisions that make people feel good to the community. So I was doing pop-ups where we did an hour of mat class and then an hour of kind of community DJ eat together type deal. And then once I started working in studios, I was just able to see. So that was kind of at the beginning of me going through my Pilates certification program. Towards the end, you can start going into teaching at studios as an actual instructor. And so when I started doing that, I was just really able to see what kinds of management styles I liked and the way that I want to curate my community by like the kind of policies I have, the way that we offer classes, the way that we structure the schedule for the instructors, like trying to come up with a way that things feel fair and like it's not just about you're a client, but you're a student, which means that you have a teacher who's also important.
Yeah. Can you give an example of that, of some of those maybe structures or some of those ways you manage to, to bring out that principle of fairness?
So one thing I try to do is like maintain upholding our studio policies. I feel like a lot of times as an instructor, I felt like kind of the policies were there, but not to protect me as an instructor at other studios. And so I really want, like, all of our instructors are women of color also. So it's not just a space for women of color to come and be served, but we're also the people doing the serving. So I want them to feel supported too. And like, yeah, you can't just come in here and treat me however. I deserve to be treated fairly, which means that you can't come in 30 minutes late to my class and expect me to just like fall all over you trying to get you up to date with what everybody else is doing. We have a set schedule so that if you know that Amanda's going to be there, or let's say a real person, that DJ is going to be there at 6:30 every Monday morning to 10:30 every Monday morning, like you can build your routine around this relationship that you have with this person instead of it being like every week it may be this person that teaches this class and that person. And of course we have subbing, but I think our community really values being able to go to their person or like their few people. And when I sub, I can tell that it's like, oh, I'm with Carmen's people. I'm not with my people. Like they're my people, but they want Carmen. They have a relationship with her.
What is it about having that, since you mentioned like having that person in the instructor, what do you think is the significance of not just having, other Pilates students who, maybe look like you or maybe share some of the same background as you, but also having an instructor who does?
This may sound really silly, but one of like my biggest indicators that people started to feel safe in the studio was that women wear their bonnets to class. Growing up as a Black girl, going to sleepovers with non-Black people was just like, my mom was like, okay, how can I do your hair so that you don't have to wear a scarf or a bonnet to sleep? And it was like a source of embarrassment a lot, you know? So when I started seeing people come to class with their hair scarves on or like don't have the scarf on, but they just came from work, so they're going to wrap their hair up so that they're good through their evening class. I'm like, oh, you feel comfortable. You feel like as an instructor, I'm not going to be looking at you crazy for wrapping your hair up right now. And that made me feel just really, really good. And we also have just 3 people per class right now, which we do plan on upping to at least 6 people per class. But when I talked about us expanding with the community, a lot of people were really worried about us getting bigger classes because they know that they get to like build community because the classes are so small. So I realized that like that ability to get to know your instructor and like actually meet a new friend that you go to class with every couple of weeks or something is something that they really look forward to.
Going back to when you had decided that you were going to start Fringe Pilates, how did you go about doing that? Like, were there any hurdles or like, were there certain support systems that you really relied on to get this going? I imagine this was your first business that you had started, or?
Yeah. I started seeking certification programs after that experience where I cried in the car and all of that business, like immediately. And I knew that there was a lot of DEI and like equity in general initiatives following George Floyd, which I have my feelings about. But at the same time, I knew that I could benefit from because there was a lot of opportunity for people to pay for me to go to school, basically. So I was able to find a fully funded comprehensive certification program at a very, very white institution in the city. But I kept on telling myself that no matter what this experience is, it's free and I can do whatever I want to do with the certification once I'm done. So it was a lot of feelings going through that program. I was, again, the only Black person and the only person who had like a full time, I was still teaching kindergarten. So I was full time teaching and like making the hours and stuff work. My wife, God bless her, she's a nurse practitioner in psychiatry and she's just like really good at saving. So after she figured like saw me going through all of this and I graduated from my program, she was like, okay, if you really want to do this, she gave me seed money to get my first two reformers. The fact that she believed in me so much and like took me seriously enough to like put her money where her mouth is, I was like, okay, I take me seriously now too.
As a former educator myself, but I was teaching high school, I'm really curious with kindergarten if there are any transferable skills or experience that you took from that to teaching adults in Pilates.
I always joke about how the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't know if you've seen it. In that movie, one of the lead characters, like every time she's placed in a new situation, she's like given a new random role from some other part of her life, like a pizza delivery person or a gymnast. And these things feel so like disjointed from what she's trying to tackle in the current scene. But she finds skill sets from those different professions or different experiences that help her to tackle the current thing that she's dealing with. And when I think about teaching kindergarten, I'm like, that seems kind of disparate from what I'm doing right now. But all of those skills of like multitasking, dealing with personalities, we're all kind of very childlike when we feel vulnerable and a person is new, quite honest, and you don't know to trust them. I think all of that helped me be such a strong teacher. It's just a different set of content, but I'm still teaching.
And what's the most challenging part still for you of, running this business or teaching?
Teaching is like not like any challenge in teaching. I'm like, it's fine. I love teaching. Running a business is remembering that I still have to make money. Like there's times when people want exceptions, especially during the summertime, people have traveled and like staying true to studio policies is really hard when I'm like, yeah, I get it. But at the same time, I'm also a member of my own gym. I also have credits that I have to maintain. And even though me and the gym owner are friends, at the end of the day, if I don't use my credits, he's not going to give them back to me. I to like use that experience of myself to be like, you're not being cruel. You're following through on your policies.
You've alluded to this, but yeah, if you could speak more directly to, the role that community plays in your business and the role that you think what you think Fringe Pilates plays in your community.
I think that community, I put this in the newsletter all the time, that the only reason why we exist is because they believe in us and they keep showing up the community keeps showing up to our classes. Our doors would literally not be open if people every week didn't decide that they want to spend time with us doing some Pilates. So I think that especially for a small brand that just has one shop, when you're competing with huge brands out there like Club Pilates and Equinox, like you're dealing with huge brands that have such huge amounts of money, creating community is imperative to your survival because those are the people that are choosing to spend their local dollars on you when they can go to any other place in their area. We also are the only Black-owned studio. There's about 5 Black-owned studios in New York. Not all of them are like doing classes. I would say about 3 to 4 of us do classes, but we're the only studio that's Black-owned that's below Eastern Parkway. So it's like a big geographical gap, basically, that we're trying to fill. And as we continue to look forward to adding on a second studio space, I wouldn't dream of leaving Flatbush because it would just be a slap in the face of the people that have helped us grow. And I really love the Flatbush community too.
Yeah. Do you also find, because I learned about you through Tunes and, also, counted you as part of that network of BIPOC business owners, do you also find that community with other folks of color or, Black people in this kind of space?
That's been really cool. Like one of my friends who's in my living room right now, she's a Cambodian business owner and she owns a small bar with a couple of her friends. And just being able to meet all these other people of color essentially that own small businesses has been super crucial to me figuring out how to do this job at all. But just like taking away from my imposter syndrome and like, am I supposed to be doing stuff like this? And then I just get to do fun collaborations with my friends essentially. So Whisk and Whiskey is the bar that my friend Chandra owns. We do a collaboration with them every last Sunday of the month where we do community-based class. My favorite coffee shop in my neighborhood is called September BK. It's also owned by a Black Latina woman named Sara, and she's open to doing some community-based classes at her shop too. And so I try not to like leave Brooklyn in general because I feel like that's our home. But I do feel like I want to start being able to have partnerships outside of just Flatbush because there's just so many amazing businesses to work with and talk to and learn from.
And is there anything else that you see for the future of Fringe Pilates besides some of these partnerships you mentioned?
Right now, I know maybe like very far from now, we would start an education program where we're, training our own instructors and giving some support financially. But currently, I'm really focused on community partnerships and corporate partnerships.
Great. And then my final question is more to someone directly who's, interested in starting at Fringe Pilates and maybe also, feels intimidated by it. Like, what would you tell them to just know and also to expect if they're thinking about joining?
I would tell them to email us or text us and tell us I'm nervous. Like, let us know you're nervous because I think everybody does a great job of like really holding people who let them know this is hard for me. And just come in knowing that you have people who are going to support you and it's not just the staff. The students are going to be there to support you too. I've seen it many times where they're like, this is how you do the thing. You're going to be fine. And they give feedback at the end saying how great somebody does. So everyone's there to focus on their own journey and you don't have to be at the same place that somebody else is in their journey.
To learn more about Fringe Pilates or sign up for a class, visit fringepilates.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Fringe Pilates. All of this and more is linked in our show notes. And if you know of a local business that you think Epicenter should feature, let us know. Drop us a note at hello@epicenter-nyc.com. That's all for today. Thanks for listening and thanks for supporting us as we do our best to support our community. We couldn't do it without you. For more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at epicenter-nyc.com. Our intro music is All the Pretty Horses by Karavika. You can find more of their music on their website, linked to in our podcast description.